What's up everyone, it's the Czar Jarek here, back again with another video. Basically, this video will be about my DO support build. I know most of you all will obviously know me for Anointed Champion, but thanks to loadouts in recent updates, I have, along with my AC build, I now have a DO build that I switched to as well. Um, What I would like to say about Dio is that I'm no expert in Divine Oracle. This is just again my personal Divine Oracle build. So I'm not here to steal the limelight from others who has Dio guides. So this is just simply my idea of Dio that I switch to whenever I feel like it. So without further ado, here we go. As you can see, I'm already fixed there to spec for Dio. To show you all who have no idea about the loadouts, it's basically like this. With the new mod, you had a free loadout, which for every loadout you want from that point, it will cost 500 Zen, which is not bad. So it was a good thing at least they gave us one free loadout. As I'm about to click on it, you will see I have Dio layout and original AC. But right now we're focusing on my Dio's aspect. So for starters, as we see here, we go with Divine Oracle. So we choose. Alright. I will not be going through the power tree, however, because the tree will take totally long and I don't have that much time for that, so I'll probably have to do the power tree on another video. So for starters, the ability score. As you all know, I usually promote in my Anointed Champion build to go for all wisdom and all strength, and nothing changes here, so we'll do that here as well. Right, so we keep putting points here. Alright, here as well, and finally here. Accept. Alright, next up we go for Feats. As you all know as well, I have specific feats I go with on Anointed Champion, and nothing changes here as well. So it would look like this, maxing out this, 3 out of 5 here, max this out, 4 out of 5 here, and most importantly 1 here for cleanse, as cleanse will be useful in FBI's first boss and in Swadborg for the Manticores. So commit. Alright. Next up, the actual Paragons. So basically I will still be righteous. So we're first to begin with, we're putting 5 out of 5 in Furious Intervention, of course. Next up, we're putting 5 out of 5 in Power of the Sun, because Power of the Sun, basically, as it says here, Brand of the Sun reduces the target's damage output and their critical chance by 5% when maxed out. So we're going for this, because as Dio, the main at-will you will be using indeed is Brand of the Sun. Next up, 5 out of 5 in Weapons of Light. This is to help with power share, but to be clear here, Dio does not stress on power share like how Anointed Champion does, but it won't hurt to have the 5 points in Weapons of Light anyway. Next up, Bear Your Sins. This is a no-brainer. Just like an Anointed Champion and Righteous period, you have to take this. As well as Condemning Gaze. Not even, no-brainer as well. Just max out this. And obviously you put 1 into the capstone. As for Fire of the Gods, it truly depends. Definitely as Anointed Champion, you want to have at least 1 point in Fire of the Gods. But for Dio, in my opinion, depending on how you spec, and especially with Brand of the Sun, I don't believe that you actually need points in Fire of the Gods if you're Divine Oracle and depending on how you are spec'd. However, just to be safe here with some people, I will at least put 1 point here. But remember guys, you don't technically need any points into this if you're Dio. Next up, the other two trees, right? Usually, if I'm going faithful, right? So I want you all to pay attention here carefully. Pause the video at times if you have to. If you're going faithful, you're going to go like this. 5 here, 5 here, and you're going to put 4 to 5 and gift of the gods. That's if you choose to go righteous with path faithful. If you don't choose that, you can go basically the points into virtuous, which when I'm usually spec into vert and righteous as Dio, I usually go for this, which should be 5 out of 5 for lasting wishes, 5 out of 5 in have faith, and 4 out of 5 in gift of haste. The reason why I don't take Prophecy of Doom's Paragon power is simply because I don't use Prophecy of Doom enough. Obviously I use Prophecy of Doom in boss fights in single target, but other than that I don't use it in mobs, in the mob battles, hence why I don't see the use of this specific move. For now guys, we will confirm for virtuous tree. So basically this is how one of my builds look. Commit. Okay. And for those wondering about the fire of the gods, if you're not putting any points into this, I'll actually put the extra point into gift of haste. Next up, boons. So we're starting with your guild stronghold. Basically, if your guild has access to all these boons, you just basically go for power. I went for defense and utility. Well, remember, Dio isn't that much big on the power sharing like AC, but even if you want to take full advantage of the weapons of light at least, then if you have Assassin's Covenant, at least you could still keep your boon on defense. If you don't have Assassin's Covenant, however, you'll most likely switch to the hit points boon. But for now, I'll stick with defense. PvP, I don't PvP with this build, so this is technically not important. But usually when I PvP, this is in terms of AC. I usually just go for this, this one, and this. But this is not important, so ignore this. Sharanda. I basically go for power, crit. I go for the AP. I go for ferocity, and I go for fury. It doesn't really matter what you choose here for these last two, just as long as you choose either one here or this one as well, along with Elven Resolve. It's either or really, but I'll stick with these 5. Remember, you're not choosing deflect and these stuff because the reason why I chose deflect in the other build is simply to take full advantage of power sharing. But since this is Dio and it doesn't stress that much, you could go with power and crit here. So commit. Okay. Next up, Dread Ring. For this is your call. You could go for power here, you could go for crit here. I go for more crit because basically you want that crit to with Dio, you would like to have a higher crit chance than what you will have with Anointed Champion for specific reasons. Basically to help proc a lot of your stuff like bear your sins and so on much easier. So I went for crit here. I hate regen, so lifesteal. I personally went for resistance ignored just to give me a little more oomph when all my bondings are proc. That way I'm over 60% resistance ignore, and if I have to, I could help with DPS. Kinda. Next up, depends on what you want here. You could either go for Enraged Growth and Augmented Tape Bastion, or you can go for Shadow Touched and Endless Consumption. No, shadow touched, and actually I go for burning guidance here as well. Since at times where I have to be the sole healer, I usually use divine and bastion depending on the situation. So this could help you a little bit to give you a little more oomph of damage. Alright, next up, Icewind Dale. I usually go with the AoE resist there. Um, Depends on what I need more. I will probably go for the incoming heal bonus for now. For here, this is your call. You could go for recovery or the crit severity. If you have dread and your crit severity is manageable already, then you go for recovery. For this one, I will go for the crit severity for now. As for this, no brainer. Oops. For this no brainer, I'll go with cool resolve. And last but not least, all these boons are pretty useless, but I usually go with Winter's Bounty. On the dark, you go for power, you go for crit. I go for regen here. For this one, I go for stamina, and last but not least, the one with 10% damage versus demons. Next up, Tyranny. I basically go for power, crit, arm pen, lifesteal, and you can either max out Dragon's Thirst or max out Dragon's Fury. I don't balance it like how I do with AC, so for now I'll go with this. Maxed out Dragon's Fury for the crit self. Next up, the Maze Engine. For here, I go for lifesteal severity. This one I don't like, so I go for combat advantage. This is a toss-up. Depends on what you need more. Either more stamina to regen in combat or action point gain. It depends on what you need, as I said, so if you want, you could go for this one. And last but not least, engine inspiration. Next up, elemental evil. I of course go for power. This one, life severity. Crit strike, and last but not least, gale of retribution for crit. Next up, Storm King's Thunder. For the first one, I go for... Both of these boons are pretty bad, but I go for lifesteal severity. This one I will go for... Since the last one I went for incoming heal bonus from Icewind Dale, I will go for the stamina gain. This one recovery. This one I choose the HP. And last but not least, all of these boons are pretty bad, so I max out healing warmth. Alright, last but not least, the cloak ascendancy. I usually go for the following. I choose recovery. I choose here, these two are pretty bad. I'll go for crit severity. I go for Aura of Hope, and last but not least up here, I will choose Vision of Beyond, which is when you land a crit strike, your stamina regens 10% faster for 10 seconds. Pretty good. So commit changes. Okay. Well, that's it for the boons. The rest of stuff to mention now. Alright, for starters, companions. Actually, the very same companions I use here are pretty useful for the same Dio build. So I usually just keep my companions exactly like this. If I change anything, people, I'll probably take out the healing companions just to put in action point gain. But other than that, I use all this when I'm Dio. The only difference here is I switched my Azures and Silvery. So basically, in one of them, I will simply switch like this. I'll put the Silvery in defense and the Azure offense to to basically get more crit when my abundance proc, which usually with all my buffs and everything and the abundance proc, I'm usually on 20k crit with this Dio setup, which is a fair number of crit chance on the whole, which gets me on 70%, I believe, or a little more, which is more than enough for this build. Next up, mounts. Well, I have this legendary mount, which this combat power does nothing big really, so ignore this. If y'all, however, for the combat power, I believe the best one is the one from the legendary lion. If you can get a hold of the legendary lion, then you definitely go for that. Equip power, I stick with the snail's power for this Dio build. It works wonders. Stable, I basically would keep all this, because in all honesty, I'm not sure what I can possibly replace Assassin's Covenant with. But other than that, I like how my setup is currently. Finally, my character itself. So guys, basically, as I'm Dio right now, I definitely like to have all cruels, especially when I'm Dio. With AC, if you're endgame, it is debatable, since you can either mix cruels and radiants, or you can even go for all radiants depending. But for this specific Dio build, I prefer to go all cruels. So just to do quickly here, I will make a switch and put back all my cruels. Alright? Right. And last but not least, this. And as you can see, one time I'm using the Transcendent Frost. When I'm Dio, I especially love to use the Frost in particular, as the Frost takes, as Frost right now, it gives a very nice debuff, basically 10%, but on level 73 mobs, the effectiveness is 75%, hence the debuff is basically 7.5%. The reason why Giles Gaze is here right now that has nothing on it is because for this Dio layup, I forgot to include the Guys of the Wolf Clan. As some of y'all may have seen, I included this headpiece called Guys of the Wolf Clan in my current AC build, because that particular headpiece takes full advantage of power sharing, which I'll show you all now. So this is the headpiece. It's called Guys of the Wolf Clan, and basically this is what it does. When not in party, 2000 defense, and when you're in a party, 2000 power. So if you do the maths, this actually in a party gives 367 more base power than Giles Gaze, hence making it better and ultimately the best choice for ACDCs. As for Dio, I would still use this anyway, because when I'm in a party, it would be helpful to have even more power for my teammates, although Dio doesn't stress that much on power share, only with weapons of light. But this is just to make you all aware of this is definitely the top choice right now for power sharing. Guys of the Wolf Clan. This is how it looks like. As you can see, I dyed it to match my current getup, right? It looks cool to some, others it may look a little creepy. But alright, I'll disable again. And guys, that's basically it for Dio. What you see here with the artifacts basically is the same. As y'all can clearly see, there was not much difference outside of the boons itself and actually being Dio. So before I end this video, I'll basically say here what I usually use as my Dio setup in terms of encounters and everything. So guys, I'll just scroll through quickly and point out that for starters, your dailies will be Hallowed Ground and Divine Armor, okay? Secondly, for your class features, it will definitely be Terrifying Insight. Make sure to max out Terrifying Insight as well, and either Foresight or Hastening Light or Holy Fervor, but I go for Hastening Light along with Terrifying Insight. As for encounters, depending on the party setup, I go with Divine Glow, Break the Spirit, Astral Shield on mobs, or Divine Glow, Break the Spirit and Bastion on mobs, or Divine Glow, Break the Spirit and Forge on mobs. Or even a couple of DPS moves like this, depending on the party's setup. However, for boss fights, if the party clearly doesn't need any healing, like major heals from Bastion in particular, or defenses from Astral Shield, I have Divine Glow, Break, and Prophecy of Doom. Prophecy of Doom is a total game changer on single target slash boss fight, so remember as well to max this out and always have it ready for a possible boss fight. And last but not least, at wills, no brainer, Brand of the Sun, and I have Astral Seal as the secondary. But remember guys, Brand of the Sun is the whole pinnacle of importance for Dio. You definitely want to have Brand of the Sun as your at will in use. Alright, so remember that. Instill that in your brain, that have Brand of the Sun. Alright guys, well, that's basically it for the build for Dio. So that's how I usually roll with Dio. Basically everything I just said here. So guys, for any questions, feel free to comment below, or if you see me in game, try and mail me at Jeff Slider, and hopefully I can get back with answers to you as quickly as I can. As some of you all may know, I'm a pretty busy dude, so I try my best to answer. Alright guys, so take care and thanks again.